Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So all together please. Om Jnana Timirandasya Ganandana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sabidam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Prijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padang Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapcha Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavanishwari Rishabhana Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So, reading from Srimad Gita Upanishad, chapter 13, text number 3. Please repeat. Chaitragyam Chapi Mam Vidhi Savachaitrishu Bharata Chaitra Traitragyayor Jnanam Yathag Jnanam Matam Mama Chaitragyan Chapi Mam Vidhi Savachaitrishu Bharata Chaitra Gyayor Jnanam Yathag Jnanam Matam Mama Chaitragyam Chapi Mam Vidhi Savachaitrishu Bharata Chaitra Gyayo Jnanam Yathag Jnanam Matam Mama Chaitragyan Chapi Mam Vidhi Savachaitrishu Bharata Chaitra Gyayor Jnanam Yathag Jnanam Matam Mama. Okay.
Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi Sarvakshetreshu Bharata Kshetra Kshetragnyo Jnanam Yathag Jnanam Matam Mama Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi Sarvakshetreshu
Bharata Chaitra Gyayo Jnanam Savachaitrishu Bharata Chaitra Gyayo Jnanam Yathag Jnanam Matam Mama Chaitragyan Chapi Mam Vidhi Savachaitrishu Bharata Chaitra Gyayo Jnanam Yatha jnanam matam mama. So, word for word, please repeat. Kshetragyan, the knower of the field. Cha, also. Api, certainly. Mam, me. Vidi, know. Sarva, all. Kshetrishu, in bodily fields. Bharata, O son of Bharat. Kshetra, the field of activities. The body. Kshetragyayor, the knower of the field. Jnanam, knowledge of. Yat, that which. Tat, that. Jnanam, knowledge. Matam, opinion. Mama, my. Translation, Srila Prabhupada. O skin of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies. And to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion. Please repeat. O skin of Bharat, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies. And to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion. Purport Srila Prabhupada. While discussing the subject of the body and the knower of the body, the soul and the supersoul, we shall find three different topics of study: the Lord, the living entity, and matter. In every field of activities, in every body, there are two souls, the individual soul and the supersoul. Because the supersoul is the plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, Krishna says, I am also the knower, but I am not the individual knower of the body. I am the super knower. I am present in every body as Paramatma or supersoul. One who studies the subject matter of the field of activity and the knower of the field very minutely in terms of this Bhagavad Gita can attain to knowledge. The Lord says, I am the knower of the field of activities in every individual body. The individual may be the knower of his own body, but he is not in knowledge of other bodies. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is present as the Supersoul in all bodies, knows everything about all bodies. He knows all the different bodies of all the various species of life. A citizen may know everything about his patch of land, but the king knows not only his palace, but all the properties possessed by the individual citizens. Similarly, one may be the proprietor of the body individually, but the Supreme Lord is the proprietor of all bodies. The king is the original proprietor of the kingdom, and the citizen is the secondary proprietor. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is the supreme proprietor of all bodies. The body consists of the senses. The Supreme Lord is H.G.Kesi, which means controller of the senses. He is the original controller of the senses, just as the king is the original controller of all the activities of the state. The citizens are secondary controllers. The Lord says, I am also the knower. This means that he is the super knower. The individual soul knows only his particular body. In Vedic literature it is stated as follows. Chetrani hi sharirani bijam chapi shubha shubhe tani veti sayogatma tata chetragya uchyate. This body is called the Chetra, and within it dwells the owner of the body and the Supreme Lord, who knows both the body and the owner of the body. Therefore he is called the knower of all fields. The distinction between the field of activities, the knower of activities, and the supreme knower of activities is described as follows. Perfect knowledge of the constitution of the body, the constitution of the individual soul, and the constitution of the supersoul is known in terms of Vedic literature as Jnana. That is the opinion of Krishna. To understand both the soul and the supersoul as one, yet distinct, is knowledge. One who does not understand the field of activity and the knower of activity is not in perfect knowledge. One has to understand the position of Prakriti, nature, and Purusha, the enjoyer of nature, and Ishvara, the knower who dominates or controls nature and the individual soul. One should not confuse the three in their different capacities. One should not confuse the painter, the painting, and the easel. This material world, which is the field of activities, is nature, and the enjoyer of nature is the living entity, and above them both is the supreme controller, the personality of Godhead. It is stated in the Vedic language in Svetashvara Upanishad 112, Bhukta Bhogyam Preritaram Che Matval Sarvam Protam Trividham Brahmam Etad. There are three Brahman conceptions. Prakriti is Brahman as the field of activities, and the Jiva, individual soul, is also Brahman and is trying to control the material nature, and the controller of both of them is also Brahman, but he is the factual controller. In this chapter, it will also be explained that out of the two knowers, one is fallible and the other is infallible. One is superior and the other is subordinate. One who understands the two knowers of the field to be one and the same contradicts the supreme to be one and the same contradicts the supreme personality of Godhead, who states here very clearly, I am also the knower of the field of activity. One who misunderstands a rope to be a serpent is not in knowledge. There are different kinds of bodies and there are different owners of the bodies. Because each individual soul has his individual capacity for loading it over material nature, there are different bodies. But the Supreme is present in them as the controller. The word Cha is significant, for it indicates the total number of bodies. That is the opinion of Sri Baladev Vijayabhushan. Krishna is the super soul present in each and every body apart from the individual soul. And Krishna explicitly says here that real knowledge is to know that the super soul is the controller of both the field of activities and the finite enjoyer. Mukam karochi vachalam bhangam laite giri yat kripa tamaham bande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Chaitragyam chapimam vidhi sarva chaitri subharata chaitra gyayo gyanam yattha jnanam matam mama. O skin of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies, and to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion. So in the Vedas there's three kanda. Kanda means chapter, corner, section. There is karma kanda, jnana kanda, and upasana kanda or bhakti kanda. So karma kanda discusses activity. Karma means guna karma vibhagasha. It means the work a living entity should perform according to his guna. It is the basic of the varnashram. So karma kanda discusses all the different duties and work, and ultimately recommends karma yoga. It should be performed, all these activities, for the satisfaction of the Supreme. Then jnana kanda means knowledge, section of knowledge. So in this purport, if you remember, to understand this body, the knower and the two knowers as distinct, the two knowers of the Supreme Lord and the individual soul and the material body. So if you understand the distinction of Purusha, Prakriti, and the subordinate Purusha, the Jiva actually is Prakriti, but he's acting as Purusha. He's also trying to be the enjoyer of the body, but his nature is Prakrita. Jiva Shakti, So Jiva is not a Purusha expansion like Baladev or the Vishnu. He is a Shakti expansion. Jiva Shakti. So he is Prakriti. The Baladev, the expansions from Baladev, from Vishnu, they are Purusha Shakti. Purusha means predominator, Supreme Lord, the superior enjoyer. As Prabhupada says here, the Jiva is the finite enjoyer. If you remember at the end of the... So he is finite, but the Lord is Ananta. He's unlimited. And then the material energy. So the Prakriti, the Jiva Shakti, is meant to serve the Supreme Lord. He is Angsa. Just like this finger is meant for the satisfaction of the body. And when this finger serves the body, cooking dinner, picking the nose, whatever, then it attains satisfaction. Right? And its true role. If the finger wants to act independent of the body, then you have a bit of a problem. And the finger will not be very happy. And also, if you disconnect the finger from the body, it's next to useless, unless you have some sellotape or something. So, in Krishna consciousness, we want to stop the Purusha Bhav of the Jiva and develop the Prakriti Bhav. Instead of trying to enjoy, we want to serve. Instead of trying to enjoy that third category, the material body and matter, as a false Purusha, we should be the Prakriti, enjoyed by the Supreme Lord. Alishyava padaratam panashtiman. So this knowledge is of spiritual principles, material principles, the distinction between the Supreme Lord and matter, the distinction between the Supreme Lord and the Jiva. This will be expanded in these last six chapters. Just like it is generally said that the first 6 chapters are Karma Kanda of the Gita. There's a lot of discussion. Of course, it would be wrong to say that there's only karma discussed there. But the principles of karma are very prominent there. And in the middle, Upasana Kanda or Bhakti Kanda. Upasana means worship of the Supreme Lord, bhajan. That is very prominent in the middle 6 chapters. And so in this last 6 chapters, Jnana, which Prabhupada is defined in the purport to know the distinction between the Supreme Lord, the Jiva, and material nature. So you can expand the idea of knowing the Supreme Lord into all his Purusha expansions. And then you can expand that into the spiritual world. So knowledge means to understand the Supreme Lord, the spiritual world, and then the Jiva as a separate category, and then the material nature. So this is called Sambandha Jnana. So Krishna is giving this knowledge to Arjuna. He is now a devotee. He's seen the universal form, 12th chapter, processes and different levels of bhakti have been given. But now, with this Sambandha Jnana, this knowledge, Arjuna will become very fixed because his intelligence will be satisfied, and the knowledge itself will give attraction to bhakti. I was just reading an essay by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, no less, a few days ago, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he ended the essay by saying, knowledge is that which gives attraction to Krishna. So that's a very wonderful definition. Yes, of course, Prabhupada defines here in a very one way, it's perfectly correct. the distinction between Jiva, Supreme Lord, and the material nature. But in a general sense, Bhaktivinoda is saying that this spiritual knowledge gives attraction to Krishna. That is knowledge. So you can understand the point of Bhaktivinoda Thakur if you think, and there is a lot of discussion here, if you think that the Supreme Lord and the individual soul are one, they're the same, then you will lose attraction to the Supreme Lord. If you think that I'm the same as the Supreme Lord, then why should you perform bhakti? Bhakti bhajan means to the superior. If you think that I am the Supreme, I'm non-different from the Supreme, then why should you be attracted to Krishna? You may as well be attracted to yourself. So that is the ultimate position of the Mayavadis. They become puffed up with false knowledge, thinking I'm the Supreme. And they cast aside the idea of bhakti. Or they have an idea that I will worship Supreme Lord as a means of fixing my consciousness on the Brahman, which is beyond the Supreme Lord, which has manifested the Supreme Lord. So I will perform Haritoshan, bhakti, as a means of becoming the Supreme Lord. So this is, of course, contradictory mentality. How are you worshipping somebody if you want to be that person? Just like if I'm a big famous pop singer and somebody is my fan, that's okay. If they buy my records and buy me a new scarf for Christmas, I will think, you're a wonderful fan. Keep buying the records. But if that fan wants to become me, kick me out of my pop singing group and become the lead singer and make me the janitor or the roadie, then that is not even neutrality. That is enmity. So they're performing Haritoshan. Oh yes, I'm acting as a bhakta, but I want to be the Supreme Lord. I want to be the object of bhakti. So therefore the Mayavadi idea is fundamentally offensive, contradictory. So knowledge is that which gives attraction to Krishna. Therefore knowledge is that which gives reality, which gives the actual fact. Because we don't have to live in illusion or with secondary ideas, living in a dream according to our whims and desire, right? Just like somebody sitting under a tree. I think there's a story about the potter, isn't there? Who was making pots. And he was thinking, oh, I'll make so many pots and I'll become a rich man. And then once I'm a rich man, I'll get a good wife. And I'll order my wife around. She'll be a good obedient. And if she disobeys, I'll kick her. And so he kicked out and he broke the pots. Prabhupada tells that story. So he came back to reality. He was living in his little dream. So in the material world, under the Maya Shakti, everyone is dreaming that I will achieve some wonderful position, but actually their dream is actually destroying their chance of actually having a wonderful position. We should come to reality. And the reality is that the Supreme Lord and the Jiva are different category. And by accepting the fact that we are Jiva and we are not Purusha, that we are Prakriti, Jiva Shakti, accepting our true nature through Guru, through Shastra, then we can come to reality, and reality the beautiful. Right? Dream is secondary, it is illusory, it is imaginary, it is a pipe dream, daydream. But reality is actually far superior to Maya Shakti, illusion. So when the jiva absorbs this knowledge that he is eternally angsa, servant of the Supreme, part and parcel of the Supreme, the same quality as the Supreme, but the Shakti of the Supreme meant to interact with the Supreme, when he accepts that, then he's on the path to Satchitananda. Then he's on the path to the Paraprakriti, the Supreme Transcendental Abode. Then he's on the path for eternal life. Then he's on the path for full realization. Then he's on the path for freedom from illusion. Then he's on the path, instead of jadaras, material enjoyment, temporary, insubstantial, unsatisfactory, ultimately, he's on the path now for Anand, Satchit Anand. And then he's on the path for his real nature, Jivera Swarupoi Nityera Krishna Das. So it's very important that every advancing devotee should contemplate this point. If he understands, at least intellectually at the beginning, realization can come later. If we understand our real nature as Jiva Shakti, as Prakriti, if we accept that after understanding it, and we act accordingly, then the pathway to transcendental life is open. But if we maintain the idea, I am the Purusha, I am the enjoyer of this material nature, or I am the Supreme Lord, the second form of Purusha Bhav. One is that I want to enjoy this secondary material nature, and then the other idea is that I am actually the Supreme Lord. So these two sides to this bent coin, if we reject this, then we can come to actually reality, the beautiful, and we can experience eternal life. But that has to be accepted. It is called Varna Das, the stage of acceptance. Shravana Das means, the first section of bhakti is Shravana Dasha. It means to hear. But when we accept, after hearing, then we are on the path to realizing our true nature, rather than our illusory nature. So this knowledge is being given to Arjuna, and through Arjuna, therefore, the whole universe, this fact, that the jiva is the servant of the Supreme, is angsa of the Supreme, same in quality, but he is the finite enjoyer, dependent upon the Supreme Lord. So when this is understood and accepted, then the path of bhakti is open. But as long as the living entity does not fully absorb this conception and accept it, and he maintains Purusha Bhav, then bhakti will be a side matter. This is the neophyte condition. I'm serving Krishna during the japa period, or when I'm selling, but then I go home and I watch television. I'm serving Krishna, I come to the temple at the weekend, I offer garlands, and I dance in the kirtan, but then I have my own plan after that. And I'm offering garlands so that Krishna will help me execute my plan for my enjoyment. So this is the Kanishtadikari. Kanishtadikari is distinguished from the Majjhimadikari, medium devotee, by the lack of knowledge. But this knowledge is called Sambandha Gyan, knowledge of relationships. So these are the three fundamental categories that one should understand: the Supreme Lord, the living entity, and the material nature. If these three categories are properly understood and the devotee accepts it, then the path of transcendental life is open. But the nature is, okay, you get this knowledge, but will you accept it? Well, like I say before, like Bhakti Vinod says, this knowledge is inherently attractive. So actually the living entity, though immediately he may not accept the idea that, or he may not initially give up his Purusha Bhav, enjoying mood. If he hears this knowledge, it will awaken devotion within his heart. That is the potency of Bhakti Jnana. So therefore, again, this knowledge in these last 6 chapters, they strengthen the bhakti. And they take the living entity from being Kanishtadikari, without knowledge of these categories, and they elevate him to an aspirant devotee. Becomes Majjhimadikari. And also, the knowledge itself destroys ahankara. Right? We have the mental body. It's talking about the body here. But the real problem is not just the material, gross, external body, but the mental body. We discard these external bodies when we die, but we always keep the mental body, composed of manas, buddhi, sometimes called the causal body. It pervades the mental body. And these mental is like a vessel, like a cup, and the causal body is inside, the intelligence body, and they contain the chittam. The chittam is contaminated consciousness. Why is it contaminated? Because the buddhi, which is regulating the mind, how does the mind become regulated by intelligence? That's quite simple. Just like you regulate your body by moving your hands around, so the buddhi regulates the mind. Like in your imagination, you may imagine a bowl of red flowers. So you've created that with your buddhi, acting upon the manas and the chittam. You've created a vision of red flowers. But then if you exert your buddhi in another way, you can imagine a vase of yellow flowers. So that is the buddhi. The buddhi is controlling the mental body, and the mental body is controlling the gross body. But the buddhi is under the control of ahankara, false ego. What is false ego? False ego means I am the doer, I am the cause, I deserve the effect. I am this material body, and I am the enjoyer of everything around this material body. Aham mameti, I and mine. So with this conception, within the material intelligence, the living entity acts to enjoy the material body and the material energy through the senses of the body. But, so the ahankara is casting, if you like, a spell on the intelligence. Thinking, oh, I'm the body, I'm from this country. Just like I'm coming to the class here, I think about 3 or 4 people, happens every day. I went to the bicycle shop to pump the tire up, So there was a young boy there. First thing he asked me, where you come from? So of course, if you're, from the West and you're in India, you get that asked about 4 or 5 times a day. So he thinks I'm the material body and I'm from this material place. Right? So his intelligence is working under ahankara. He's thinking this person is his body. And this body, where's he from? His identity is his body. And part of his identity of the body is where he was born. So I told him, Chup raho. Because he was also asking for 10 rupees for pumping the tire. And I recommended he buy some tape and put it on his mouth. That made everyone laugh, and I gave 2 rupees. Anyway, the point is that everyone, not just human beings, but all the animals, even the devatas to some extent, all the asuras, the siddhas, everyone is thinking, I'm the body. And it is everyone's consciousness, everyone's mental body, permanent mental body, is influenced by this idea, ahankara. So the Shastra Acharyas are explaining, and we see here, how do you actually defeat this ahankara? How do you get it out? Lord Shiva is the governor. It is tamagun. It is the ultimate in tamagun. How do you defeat illusion? By knowledge. Right? So even somebody, because of material conditioning, he may think, oh yes, Krishna's God and I'm the soul and material nature and I should serve God. But if he goes on hearing and he contemplates this knowledge, ahankara is dispelled. Therefore you can test yourself. When people say, where you come from, if you think you're the body, you'll start thinking, yes, I'm from Greenland, Pygmy land, wherever. You will. But if your response when people ask you where you come from, and you think, I'm not this body, I'm the soul, and you become a little bit dismissive of the question, this is a good sign. It means you're becoming situated in yourself. So this spiritual knowledge has this potency because it is non-different from the Supreme Lord. Now, the opponents, and then Lord Shiva, he is in charge of ahankara. He's the deity controlling ahankara. He's also the Gunavatar of Tamagun. And he's also Vaishnava Yata Shambhu. He's also the greatest Vaishnava. So, if we cultivate spiritual knowledge, then Lord Shiva becomes our friend. He removes ahankara. This is the important point. That yes, we may be performing the Gyan Yagya, as Krishna explains in the 4th chapter. There are so many yagyas, Gyan Yagya, sacrifice of knowledge. So we may be performing Gyan Yagya, absorbing knowledge, but we offer it to the Vaishnavas. We offer it to Lord Shiva, this spiritual knowledge. We pray to the Vaishnavas, may this spiritual knowledge become fixed in my soul, in my consciousness. And they remove the illusion. This is bhakti. You enlist the power of Krishna, you enlist the power of the devotees, you enlist the power of sadhu sangha to dispel illusion. But Lord Shiva also gave the ultimate in tamagun, and Prabhupada mentions in the purport. And the ultimate in Tamagun is that the living entity doesn't see a distinction between himself and the Supreme Lord. Of course, the living entity doesn't think he's matter. He thinks he's the Supreme Lord. He's same in quality, but he thinks, I am the Supreme Lord. So, it's very interesting how Lord Shiva is involved in this. How he is the husband of Durga Devi, who is the mistress of the material world, the overall controller of the three modes. She is Avidya Devi, but for the devotee she is Vidya Devi. So Lord Shiva, for the materialist, puts them in illusion. And what is that illusion? I am the Purusha. I'm not Jiva Shakti Pakriti, I am Purusha. I am the enjoyer of this body and the material energy. And therefore, Chaitra, they grow all sorts of weeds in their field of activity. Right? The body is compared to a field of activity. So if you're a farmer, you may have a field. You can grow weeds in it, or you can grow flowers and offer them to the deity. Right? So, if you act according to karma, you will find that the weeds in your field are sometimes flowers, sometimes weeds. The plants are of a dual nature, happiness and distress in this material world. But the devotee wants to take all the product of the body and offer it to the Supreme Lord. And the result of this yajna is that the Supreme Lord gives him liberation. But this knowledge is vital, because then we act in knowledge. Another example is given there about a man. He's cutting a tree. So somebody says, "Oh, why you never cut down? You'll never cut this all these weeds, because the saw you're using isn't sharp. You should stop now and sharpen the saw, and you can cut." So the person with the saw cutting the tree says, "Don't talk to me. Because the saw is blunt, I don't have time to stop and sharpen it, because it's taking longer to cut." Is that very intelligent? I don't have time to sharpen the sword because it's taking a long time. So this is the foolish idea. People think that spiritual knowledge is not important because I'm very busy with my material life. But spiritual knowledge gives expertise in matter and spirit. So the Mayavadi idea is that because pradhan, or the material nature, the Paramatma and the Jiva have all emanated from the same source, which they designate as Brahman or the Brahmajyoti. Therefore they are one. There's also another foolish idea. The idea of sharpening the sword is to become free of the undergrowth in the jungle, is because with the sword of knowledge you cut the illusion. So one sharpens one's intelligence by absorption in spiritual knowledge. But the Mayavadi, he's settled for the idea, because the Paramatma, the individual soul, and the material nature have all come from the same source, therefore they are one. This is also obviously very unintelligent. Just because everything comes from the Supreme Lord, to say they're all one, is foolish. How do you explain the variety? Oh, that is illusion. Huh? Just like if I get sunlight and I use a prism, then I'll get a rainbow on the wall, will I not? I'll get a variety: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. I'll get them. Now the Mayavadi will come into the room and say, that's illusion. Actually, light is white. So this is their idea. The supreme law, absolute truth, is nirguna, without quality, without nirvisesh, without variety. And the rainbow, the variety, that is illusion. So is that very but their idea of illusion is that it doesn't exist. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. So how you can say the material world doesn't exist? How you can say the rainbow projected on the wall doesn't exist? It's just word jugglery, that's all. And it's word jugglery that doesn't accept reality. Whether if you call the rainbow an illusion or truth, it doesn't really matter. It has its factual existence. Whether you define it as an illusion or truth doesn't really change the rainbow one iota. So the material world exists independent of our opinion. And that's another extension of the Mayavadi idea. They say that unless somebody is hearing the tree crash in the forest, a tree falls down and makes a crashing sound. Unless somebody is hearing that, there's no sound. That things only exist in my own mind. Of course, it's a foolish idea, because when a tree falls down in the forest, the other trees hear it, the other animals hear it. But this is pure egotism. So this is the ultimate curse of Lord Shiva and Durga Devi upon the errant living entity, the rebellious living entity who wants to consider himself the Purusha, is that he starts to think that everything is the creation of my mind. Just in the same way that the Supreme Lord, everything is his creation, so the living entity progresses to the point where he thinks that all existence, all experience is just the projection of my mind. So in that way, his desire to be the supreme controller is fulfilled. Do you see the point? He cannot become the absolute supreme controller, creator of the material and spiritual. So he becomes the absolute dreamer, considering himself the source of everything he experiences. But the Supreme Lord is the supreme controller, Ishvara Parama. Okay, if you are the source of everything you are experiencing, and you should also be able to control it. You're sitting at home thinking, I'm the source of everything that I imagine. But then the police come in and say, you haven't paid taxes last year, we're taking you to the prison house. Oh, just a minute, I'll imagine that you're not there. Because you're a figment of my creation, so now I'll make a new creation. So of course that doesn't work. So the living entity, he may sit under a tree and daydream and imagine he's the Purusha, but reality has a way of coming and bursting that bubble. You say everything's the creation of your mind, well then you should be able to control it. Why are you having a broken leg if everything is the control? Why have you got an ugly face if you're the creator of everything? Why didn't you create a more beautiful face for yourself? Huh? Why have you got indigestion? Why have you created uncomfortable conditions if you are the source of everything? So this is the ultimate Mayavadi idea, that everything is the creation. It's called solipsism in philosophy, that everything is just my mentality. And if you follow Mayavadi thought to the ultimate point, that's what you end up with. An isolated individual that lives in a dream thinking he's creating reality. But by the grace of the Supreme Lord, reality comes in and bursts that bubble. He grows old, he gets diseased, he dies. So why is he creating this kind of reality if he's the Supreme Lord? He's creating all sorts of uncomfortable conditions in his dream that he has no answer for, no control for. But of course, back in the hippie days, that was the know that people used to take LSD, and they would go into this recessive psychological state, and they would stand on a tall building and think, the only reason everything is a creation of my mind, the only reason I can't fly is because I don't believe I can fly. Do you understand? Right? So if I believe I can fly, you'll find this in many New Age type philosophy. If I believe I can fly, then I can fly. Well, unfortunately, you can practice that idea on the ground. You know, that's advisable. But don't practice that idea on a tall building. Because reality will intrude. Okay, I believe I can fly. Jump out the window. Wait a minute, I'm flying. I'm flying right down to the ground at high speed. So this is the meaning of illusion. That is illusion. False knowledge, false understanding. And to impose that upon reality and variety is just another form of dream illusion. So therefore, this is the point, that spiritual knowledge destroys illusion. Understand? So now, at the verses before this, 1 and 2, Krishna gives that, is giving all this different knowledge, and it'll be expanded later on. But basic points to understand at this point is the benefit of this spiritual knowledge. The benefit of this knowledge is that it gives liberation. And from the platform of liberation, you can perform bhakti. In verse 27 of Pakrita Ras Satudushtini, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur says that those who have kusiddhanta, he says kusiddhanta, is a Bengali word, kusiddhanta. It means false understanding, false knowledge, cannot perform bhakti. So this spiritual knowledge, it gives liberation, and from that platform one can engage in bhakti. And the knowledge itself gives attraction to Krishna. Like we say, Bhakti Vinod is very brilliant. Remember that. Knowledge is that which gives attraction to Krishna. And that which doesn't give attraction to Krishna is not knowledge. Gyan. Gyan, Prabhupada says, is to understand Supreme Lord, the individual soul, the material nature. But also Gyan is often stated as perception of the absolute truth, perception of Krishna. Vigyan means to distinguish matter from spirit, to make distinction between the supersoul and the individual soul, between the material nature and the individual soul, between the material nature and the Supreme Lord. So understanding all these relationships, this is Sambandha Gyan. And once Sambandha Gyan is absorbed by the jiva, then he becomes liberated from ahankara. This is the effect. And once he's liberated from ahankara, false ego, then he can cultivate the real ego. Because we don't want to just give up, oh, I'm not from this country, I'm not anything to do with this material body. That's good. Okay, then the question is, if I'm not the material body, then what am I? Jivara Swarupa Nichara Krishna Das. So then on the platform of liberation given by spiritual knowledge, one can cultivate bhakti. That's the importance of these 6 chapters. So if we become absorbed and study, like we had to read the purport very fast because it's a big purport. But actually you could contemplate every sentence is like a sloka. Every word, what Prabhupada has given. So just to finish up, as I brought it, this is a translation by Bhanuswami of Gita Bhushana. It is a commentary on the Gita by Baladev Vidyabhushan. So Baladev, in his purport to this sloka, he gives a list. He talks about how this is so important to understand that the jiva and the Supreme Lord are separate. He gives a list of Vedic references. So I'll read them, which prove this point. Pratag atmanam paritaram chamatva justas tatas tenamritam eti. That is Svetashwara Upanishad. Knowing himself to be different from he who inspires actions, that's the supersoul, invoking the pleasure of the Lord, that person attains liberation. So remember, if we understand, this is a very important point, Svetashwara Upanishad. Once this living entity accepts that he is the individual soul, this invoking the pleasure of the Lord, the Supreme Lord becomes pleased upon that soul. He's not thinking I'm the Supreme Lord anymore, he's thinking I'm his servant. So then the Supreme Lord becomes well disposed. Yagyo dvav agya ishte ishno agya hyeka bhuktir bhukgata yukta. This is also Svetashwara Upanishad. One is omniscient, the other ignorant. This is the distinction. One is the controller, the other is controlled. Both are without birth. The unborn Prakriti is associated with the jiva for his enjoyment. That's the unborn Prakriti, means the material nature. Sharam pradanam ambrik sharam hara. Sham atmano ishyate deva eka. The pradhan is mutable, right? The material nature is in flux. This won't be a chair forever. The jiva, hara, taker of Prakriti, is immutable. So that's a distinction between material nature and the soul. The material nature is in flux, changes, but the soul is immutable. The one Lord controls the pradhan and the jiva. Also Svetashwara Upanishad. Bhukta bhogyam paritaram chamatva sarvam prukta trividam brahma etad. This Brahman has been described as 3. The enjoyer, the object of enjoyment, and the inspirer. The unborn is situated with the one unborn Prakriti, which is red, white and black, the 3 modes of material nature, and which produces many entities of similar form. One jiva enjoys and associates closely with those forms, while another jiva, having enjoyed, gives up those objects of enjoyment. So that is also the two types of jiva. One has given up the enjoying mood, and one is trying to enjoy divine and demoniac nature. Pradam Chaitram Pati Gunesha. The Lord is the master of matter and jiva, and is endowed with all good qualities. From these verses it should be understood that the Lord maintains distinction from matter and jiva, indicated by the words Shara and Akshara, though he associates with them. So, this is the main point then. To understand the distinctions, and these distinctions are eternal. We'll finish on that point. And those distinctions are the very foundation of bhakti. So they have to be understood properly. You understand? And this knowledge gives attraction to bhakti. Any questions? Yes.
So you are one of the examples you were giving, just like as you are a pop singer and somebody, your friend like to...
He wants to be you.
And he wants to sing.
Many times that's the case, right? Sometimes they
So
kill
now-
their own pop hero.
One point I have, this Prabhupada gave us this Hare Krishna Mahamantra. He
Yeah.
said, whoever you meet, you say Hare Krishna.
Yes.
So now instead of saying Hare Krishna, we are in Hari Bol.
Who's saying that? You are, or everyone?
Most of them.
So everyone. Now you changed your picture.
So what is the truth? What you can say about this one?
Well, I've already said it. Not everyone is saying Hari Bol. I'm sure there are a lot of people still saying Hare Krishna. And even if they say Hari Bol, what's the problem? Right? There's something wrong with saying Hari Bol to somebody?
No, same thing you said that you're a pop singer and somebody want to come and say that I want to sing. So saying that Prabhupada has given us Hare Krishna, so we have to say Hare Krishna. If we say Hari Bol, then we are not calling Prabhupada.
Prabhupada didn't give us Hari Bol. He only gave us Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
What about Hare Ram? Can we say Hare Ram?
We say Hare Krishna.
We can't say Hare Ram.
But Prabhupada's any...
We can't say Hari Bol. Is that a mistake? If I say to somebody Hari Bol, is that a mistake?
You are doing your own thing. You are doing your own thing. Hari Bol, your own
I
thing.
mean, nobody else but me has ever said Hari Bol. That's my own thing.
Yeah. But Prabhupada thing is knowledge means knowledge. What Prabhupada gave us is Hare Krishna. So we should say Hare Krishna. But if we say Hari Bol, then we are not calling Guru and whatever. We are not knowledge. What is not right knowledge.
Prabhupada never said Hari Bol. If we say Hari Bol, we're not following Prabhupada.
You think about yourself. What Prabhupada is given us. Prabhupada
Next
has
question,
given us
next question.
What Mayavadis are they? Do they have any Shastra Pramana for the things they say? Mayavadis? Like you have read now Shastra Pramana for differentiated Jiva and Krishna. Hare Krishna. Now we have
Start
read-
again from the beginning, but
Yes.
go a little
Do-
slower,
Do Mayavadis
because we're
have-
not very clever in this place.
Do Mayavadis have Shastra Pramana? Any Shastra
Do
Pramana?
Mayavadis?
Mayavadis.
Oh, this is the point. Well, that's one point I didn't say here. This is the point. The Shastra is very clear in stating the distinction between Jiva and Purusha. So, Mayavad idea, which we were discussing at the end of the lecture, is false. It is not Vedic. Anyway, go on.
So there is no anything in Vedas which is supporting Mayavada conception, nothing in Vedas. They just basically, but they also basing
They
their
have-
knowledge on Vedas.
They have what they called Chatur Mahavakya. You should read Jivadharma, there's a discussion. They take 4 statements from the Vedas, little phrases, and they misinterpret them. One of them is Tattvam Asmi. That means I am his. But they say that can also be translated as I am that. That is one of their favorites, saying that I am the Supreme. But we say, yes, you are the Supreme, but you're an angsa of the Supreme, and you're eternally an angsa. Do you see the point? So it comes back to the same point. This distinctions, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, Mamai Vangsa Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanat. Sanat means eternally, that the living entity is eternally an angsa. He doesn't become one. But they use the example, like a green parrot goes into a green tree, and it becomes one with the tree. But that's foolish. The parrot is still the parrot, and the tree is still the tree. And then you can say, oh, well, okay, we don't use that example, we'll take a drop of water, seawater, and throw it in the ocean, and it becomes one with the ocean. No. The individual molecules in the atom, in the drop of water, they're still individual atoms in the ocean. So, the Mayavadi idea is, yes, by illusion I am now an individual soul, but I will become one. But the whole point is that we're eternally individual. Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. And all those. So this is the point. We're eternally Jivera Swarupoi Nityera Krishna Das. Eternally, constantly. Nityera means constantly. So, but the important, like I said at the beginning of the class, it's very important for your bhakti to accept the fact that you are Jiva Shakti. You see, the material disease is to think that I am Purusha Shakti. You see? And so that may be hanging around in the consciousness in a subtle form. I am the enjoyer. You understand? So this knowledge helps to dispel that.
So then with this conception of Mayavada conception, even though they do follow some particular regulated life as well. And the things like, so eventually what they achieve, do they have to basically fall down and start again to become a devotee, or just need a pure devotee to change?
You need, bhakti is awoken by the sadhu sangha. Sadhu sangha, shava shastra. So by association with sadhu, the path of bhakti becomes attractive. Also, Vishwanath Chakravarti, he explains that the Mayavadis, when they come to Vrindavan, by inhaling the dust, Brajaraj, they lose their impersonal conceptions. You see? So yes, we are eternally the Supreme Lord's servants. And if we accept that we come out of illusion. You understand? But as long as we hang on in a subtle or unconscious way, the Purusha Bhav, then bhakti is indistinct. We can't enter into that path. Because what does the finger do? The healthy finger, 24 hours a day, serves the body. Therefore, bhakti is Kirtaniya Sadahari. So the bhakti, just like the mother loves the child, right? She serves the child 24 hours a day. She knows the child is dependent. She doesn't think, oh, today I'll have a day off, put the child in the fridge and I'll go out with my friends. Of course, some may do that, but not so many, I hope. So that is a false condition, is it not, for a mother? So the material world is like that. People are putting the Supreme Lord aside and say, I will enjoy this material world. And I go to church on Sunday, and put a few pennies in the box and I'll go to heaven. No, it's... So process of bhakti establishes one in Kirtaniya Sadahari. But the basis, the starting point is sadhu sangha. And from sadhu, who is sadhu? Sadhu means somebody who lives according to Shastra. Who is guru? Guru is somebody who knows Krishna. If you put things very simply. So from all devotees are guru because they know Krishna. That is the path of bhakti. Krishna reveals himself. So all devotees are guru in that sense. So by association with sadhu, with bhakta, one becomes attracted to Supreme Lord. And what does the sadhu do? It means he gives knowledge. And that knowledge gives attraction. Knowledge means that which is giving attraction to Krishna. Illusion gives attraction to the Maya Shakti, right? That's what people do, right? When they want to enjoy Saturday night, let's have a drink and go out. Let's get into illusion and then get into further illusion. God makes the grapes. Instead of offering the grapes to Krishna and enjoying the prasad, so to speak, enjoy. What do? We take the grapes and turn it into wine. We drink the wine, get a headache and say, why does God make everything so bad? Why are we suffering in this world? Why can't, Don't make the grapes into wine and drink it and you won't get a hangover. Take the material energy, offer it to Krishna and become free of material suffering. It's as simple as that. So don't turn the material nature into wine. Offer it to Krishna. So the material is like that. It takes the material energy and turns it into the wine. And nowadays, you can see in Kali Yuga, they're turning the whole world into wine, right? The air is polluted. They're not satisfied with just polluting the air and the water and the land with chemical fertilizer. Now they want to go inside the genome, the DNA, and change the DNA of the potato, right? They want to change. So they want to change everything from, instead of taking the grapes, they want to turn everything into wine. They want to and enjoy the material nature in an intoxicated, foolish manner. And so you see now, the material world, it's so polluted everywhere. Fighting, mentally, food is polluted. This is real Kali Yuga. And then they blame God, right? Why did God make this wine with a hangover? Well, no, you did. Okay. So if we accept this